All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Wednesday, April 8th. Let's go. Markets are up 2 2/3% from yesterday's close already on some good Iranian headlines. And we are out in the middle of no man's land now, opening up. Oh, in this, where are we? In the 830s? Yeah, we've left our previous ranges well behind. So who knows what's going to happen today? I mean, I got to imagine we're going to be a little bit all over the place trying to find some balance up here if we can find it. And if we can't find balance up here, the market's going to go back down. So I imagine there's going to be an element of price discovery today. We've been doing pretty good about reading the shapes of the distributions over the last few days, but we have not executed very well. We've not been reading the order flow in terms of rejection very clearly. So let's just be patient today. Let's get in behind only the very best of trades and leave everything else behind. We need to instill a little more confidence this morning. So let's just be patient. We're going to allow this open auction to settle down a little bit, kind of see where we are in the shape of the distribution, whether we're balanced or imbalanced, and then taking the appropriate trades. If we're looking like balance, we want to do mean reversion trades from out of value back to value. And if we're imbalanced, we want to try to get in the low volume areas just beyond previous balance and look for the new balance development. And once we get to those areas, we need to clearly identify whether or not the market is accepting that price level or clearly rejecting it. And that has been the issue over the last couple of days. So here we go. Market is open. We're probably going to be adding a ton of volume this morning because we were just out in the middle of nowhere, right? So people have to drastically load up or unload their books right now. So typically, I mean, over the last few days, we've seen volumes in the first minute around 15,000. And within the first 20 seconds, you already have that, right? This is probably going to be a very high volume day, lots of volatility. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's allow things to play out a little bit. And let's just take the very best of trades today. No economic news releases this morning, which is good, but we do have the Fed minutes this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Doesn't matter. I do not trade the afternoon session. So yeah, we're already over 20,000 contracts. Yeah, this is a very high volume day. And let's see where the market wants to take things. You know, it seems like sellers are stepping in here repeatedly, and we saw this a little bit before, just before the market opened up here in the high 6/830s. That sellers were stepping in, and you can see that they're already stepping in and diverging a little bit. Again, we opened up 2 2/3 above where we were yesterday. That's a pretty big move, right? Some people are going to be caught. They're going to be forced to act a little bit, quickly sell because they're just so far outside of where they were yesterday. Continual high volume, probably going to get over 10,000 in the second minute as well, which is pretty extraordinary. Market seems to be moving down pretty easily. We're adding volume. Okay. Adding volume pretty easily down here. Market's able to rotate down with not much of a problem, right? But we got it held up here around 6/820. And way too early to start telling what kind of distribution this is going to start looking like. I mean, it may not even be clear for the remainder of the day. I mean, we just might be so far over the place that it's going to be a very hard read today. So patience, diligence is the name of the game today, right? Look at, we're just out in the middle of nowhere. There's no structure here to rely on. We have no previous distributions to rely on, right? This is just purely looking at today's auction and trading with what it's going to give us. Oops. Don't move that. So market trying to rotate back into value. Right, we're getting a little bit slow on the rotations, trying to rotate back into value. Looks like buyers are stepping in, though, to hold up the price. Still way too early to tell what kind of shape we're going to be in today. So flashes the divergence. I mean, we were struggling up here to get back up into value. The market would only rotate up a couple of ticks before it would rotate several ticks down, and it was much easier to add volume on the bid than it was on the offer. That's a clear sign of rejection up there. Again, we're getting hung up right here around 6820. Right? It's easy to rotate into 6820, but rotating beyond that is just proven very difficult. Not to say that we can't snap this level, but it seems to be much easier to move up here. Like we're kind of stuck in this little bit of a range right here. And so now we've dragged down value, we've dragged down the POC. It's pretty easy to rotate and add volume around the POC here around 6822. Now let's see what happens when we come up to this area where we struggle to rotate higher and see if we have the same struggles. The seller stepped in last time and diverged it a little bit. So let's see what happens if we get the same struggles up here on the top side of value. All right, most of the value is now lower from where we opened. All right, the market is accepting lower prices versus higher prices. But still having the rotational struggles up around 826. All right, you rotate up, you only get a tick or two in, and then you just rotate right back down. All right, and we spent several rotations down here, so we're getting a little bit of the time acceptance element. So, I mean, it looks like the buyers are trying to buy this up, but they're just running into sellers right here, and they're not able to fully rotate the market up. All right, but we're spending some time here. But anytime you get up here to the 6827, it quickly rotated down. Now let's see if that changes. All right, the more time you spend here, the more generally accepted this price is going to be. All right, if this was a clean, clear rejection, market will rotate up into the level and then quickly rotate away. It's not going to just hang around right here. All right, and when we shot up here above our previous swing highs, the market did quickly rotate down. All right, so we've seen buyers step in here at 6820. We're seeing the sellers stepping in at 827 or thereabouts. This does not look like a clean low. I think we extend these lows here. We rotated several times down in this area and we're able to add quite a bit of volume. But it just looks like we're going to be developing around this point of control for the time being and developing some value around 824. So nothing to do just yet. We're just monitoring the auction. I mean, the divergence on the sell side is pretty heavy, right? We're seeing just constant step-ins and they're diverging the price. They're absorbing all the offers, all the market buys, and then they're able to push price lower. But I mean, if they snap the sellers here, I mean, you're going to move pretty quickly up towards the highs again. But it's constructive. I mean, this looks like a sell here. We're still too early in the auction for me to be selling this, right? But I mean, we're not really able to rotate outside of value. Anytime we come up here, we quickly rotate down. But we are spending a little too much time up here in the 826, 827 area. You're not quickly, coming back down, snapping back down when you rotate up in here. But I mean, it looks like the sellers are doing a pretty good job of absorbing right now. And we still have yet to see anything on the buy side come in. Right. I am tempted, right, at 937 to already just jump in and take this trade here. Because the market is just not able to rotate outside of the value here. And tried once and then quickly snap back. And it seems we're having a much easier time of rotating down with activity on the bid than we are to rotate up with activity on the offer. See some buyers stepping in around the POC, but that's right at the POC. You're going to see that. You're going to see the divergence around the POC. There's a lot of liquidity there. But that's the first sign that we've seen this morning of buyers willing to step in and use some limit orders to hold up the price. So the buyers are trying to break them. They're actively trying to break them. We spent a good amount of time up here at 827. Right? It wasn't just a clean, fat rejection. Right, but selling up here, I mean, this is probably a pretty good probable trade right here. Shorting these 827s and looking for the 820s, and there you go. It's still too early. Still too early. I want this to develop a little bit more. Let's see who kind of gains control a little bit here today and see what the distribution starts looking like. I mean, it doesn't look like the market's getting too crazy. Ideally, if you're a bull longer term, you want to see this market balance today. You don't want to see any sort of breakdown. All right. And as we got down here to the lows, just beyond the previous lows that we had, the market struggled. Right. You push down and then it quickly pops up. You push down, it quickly pops back up. You're much easier to make room going long than you are taking the short here. See, and now it goes right back towards value. All right. So this may be a just balanced distribution here. And then this just may be the POC for the rest of the day. That happens a lot after you have these big moves out of previous ranges, that everyone's just like, okay, we're willing to transact just right here, right where it is. Like, let's not get crazy and take things too far in any one direction. And let's see what happens as we rotate down here towards out of value, whether or not this market can actually rotate and start to build some volume down here. If it can build some volume down here and we get several overlapping rotations, like you are kind of right now, right? You're accepting this a little bit, right? And so now you're going to extend the lows of the distribution. All right, this is an area where buyers previously stepped in. Okay. Like you're getting a lot of contract build here. We're rotating a lot right here. It wasn't a quick snap down and then snap back up. That's what you want to see for a clear rejection signal. Like the market is just unable to get down in this region and then quickly snaps back up. All right, but we were building some pretty decent volume down here, so I don't see this as a clear rejection just yet. And now the sellers are stepping in at lower prices. And based off how this volume is building here at the lows on the distribution, it does not appear that this is just going to immediately break and snap down. I think the volume build down here would be a lot faster and a lot quicker if that was going to be the case. You're probably definitely going to extend these lows here, but I'm not thinking that it's just going to snap down and start to imbalance the distribution. I mean, it still feels fairly balanced. We're going to be barely extending the lows here until we reach a level where the buyers are comfortable to step back in and drive price back up towards value. Right? I don't think we've gotten to that point yet. Right. And again, as I stated earlier, if I'm really looking for like A+ trades today, I need to see signs that buyers are stepping in and willing to initiate this price higher. And you're just not seeing that here at the lows. Right, you're getting very quick rotations. You're adding lots of volume. You're not getting quick snapbacks away. All right, so we're accepting these lower prices. The sellers have stepped in at lower prices and driven things down. Right, you almost want to, you got to follow all your rules, right? And when I say we need to wait for this opening auction to settle and wait till at least like 9:45 to really start considering where our trades are. But at 9:37, we were saying like, hey, this is probably a short right here. Because every rotation that we had up above 827 out of value just quickly snapped back. And based off this distribution shape, if we look at the TPO chart, I mean, it still looks pretty normalized. This is not an imbalance continuation type day. This looks to be mean reversion. But we need signs that there's clear rejection out of value. And this isn't it. Even though that we've gone back into value, we've built up good volume here. So what's going to be a good tell for us is if it comes back out of value and snaps right back in. Like we're slow to get out of value and then quick to get back in. That's when we know that we'll have a good long opportunity. But with the POC developing right here, this is not a good long opportunity. All right, and look at this buildup of contracts right here, all being done on the offer in the previous spot where we had sellers jump in. Yeah, it seems more people are interested in selling this today than they are buying this. All right, we potentially have a lot more room to the downside than we do to the upside. Is it possible we take a long? Sure, but it's not. This market is not favoring that right now. We're just getting continual divergence on the sell side, right? Anytime it comes up, you get these large builds of contracts all done on the offer. Difficulty rotating above the POC, but very ease in rotating back down towards the lows. Yeah, this is a seller's market for right now. Are we in any sort of area which we want to sell? Probably not. Right. If this was like an imbalance continuation down, this would be the spot in which you want to sell. This low volume area just beyond the previous value area. Is the market respecting this low volume area on the top side? No, it is not. It's very easily moving through this area and it's adding volume and it's quickly rotating. So we're just, this market it's trying to find the lower edge, right? It's doing so very carefully. It's probing, sellers step in, push things down, and then wait for the buyers to come in. All right, but we've seen on the absorption that the absorption is coming in at lower prices for the sellers. You snap these guys, you snap six. If you get above 830, you'll see a very quick move up if you can break it. So we're seeing buyers stepping in here. We're approaching the time in which we were able to freely trade. We've got no economic news releases this morning. Nothing holding us back. All right, I do not want to trade here around the POC. This is a very low probability area. I mean, given that we're looking at a pretty much normalized distribution right now, the odds, the higher probability trades lie within trading out of value back into value, right? Maybe if we get up again and up into 827, fading that back down to the POC, maybe taking a long down here at 813 where the buyers previously stepped in and take that up to the POC. The risk reward here is not that great. This is a somewhat decent good target here at 822, this low volume area within value. But sellers have looked to defend that. And then look at all the look how one-sided that is right there, right? All that was done on the offer and price did not move. That is absorption. People are hitting market buys and someone gladly sold them all the contract. Now sellers are stepping in even more, right? So, I mean, this potentially has the hallmarks of a breakdown, right? If you can capitulate the buyers down here at 6813, you might get a nice little sizable drop. And how you trade that is after the drop on the retracement back into the level that was previously holding, right? So either one, you can short this above the POC, which becomes much more lower probability, or after it does this snap and comes back to the low volume area to test it at 813, that's your trade. That's your imbalance continuation trade. But let's see what happens as we get towards out of value. Like this absorption should scare you from taking a long here. Until you can snap these guys that are just constantly absorbing price lower, you don't want to be long, right? You don't want to be long in hopes that you snap these guys. You wait for them to get snapped and then you get in on the retracement. So, you know, just because we're looking at a normalized distribution for the most part, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and just say, hey, if we're out of value, that's a trade. Because it's not. Not unless the market and the order flow clearly rejects participating in those levels. So as we come up here to the 827s, right, this is the pretty much the line of defense for the sellers. They stepped in here and swung the market lower. As we come up here, is it easy for the market to get up here or does it struggle? Right? Is it easier for it to rotate up or is it easier to rotate down? Are we adding lots of volume on the upside or are we adding more value when we tick down? Right? Pretty easy to move up here, right? Again, if we snap 683s, you can probably expect a pretty big move. Right? Buyer stepped in at 6830. Okay, now are we able to spend time up here and rotate? All right, we came back, got outside of value, and pretty quickly came back into value. You know, I didn't see anything very clear about that being a rejection. Like you do have sellers stepping in again. This is the level that they seem to be trying to defend. So let's just watch this and see whether or not it's easier for the market to rotate up out of value or back into value. And where does it add the volume? Because we've only had a couple flashes of divergence on the buy side, and it was at lower prices. And you're seeing sellers step in here. Ideally, I want to see it rotate up here again and then snap back down. Or really struggling up here at 828, right? So you got sellers stepping in again. Struggle is real. Easy to rotate, but buyers stepped in. They're like, this is going to be a little bit of a battle here, I think, right here at the 828s and 830s. But I just think you're having a much easier time rotating down than you are. Oh, right now I was like, oh, we should take this trade. It snaps. Right, those buyers, and they were being a little aggressive. We shouldn't check the headlines because that was a strong snap. Yeah, we're getting Iran headlines. Iran is talking to someone right now. Yeah, I don't know who they're talking to, but the Iranians are talking about the ceasefire and talking about what's going to negate the ceasefire. As concerned strikes against Israel amid its violation of temporary ceasefire in Lebanon. You know, I wouldn't think the ceasefire would hold very long. But trouble rotating here out of value, right? Easier to rotate back into value. All right, even you're getting the divergences here. The fact that we also snap back on the going back into value. Like we had a lot of contracts on the downside, but we flipped back up quickly. So I'm gonna be looking for just a little more clarity here towards the value area highs before I really consider taking a trade here. I mean, it does seem like we're struggling to make headwind, right? But now we're looking at the point of control, the mean being at 825. Like, do you want to take a trade here at 828 with that POC right there at 825? You probably don't. You probably don't. All right, but yeah, markets, it's much easier to move down than it is move up for this market right here, up at 828, 827s. So let's just be patient. You got more divergence on the buy side, right? The sellers were trying to take this price lower. They stepped in a couple of times around 822. Right, the buyers were trying to hold this up. They kind of gave up a little bit, and they don't seem to be stepping back in. You know, just right here in the center of value is a very low probability trade. This is just going to be chop. We're going to find, you know, the last elements of liquidity. So we don't really need to overthink this where it is at the moment. Right, this looking at the distribution, this is pretty normalized distribution. You got an absorption at the highs, absorption at the lows, and it's resulting in a fairly balanced range. I mean, sellers have been doing a much better job of holding things other than the buyers, because every time the buyers step in, they get snapped. All right. Again, rotating well here at the lows. You're not getting that immediate snapback, right? Is that a continuation breakdown? No. That looked a little more like it. Right, these quick rotations, lots of volume being built. You had the snap and you created a low volume area. All right, this is good. This is good for an imbalance continuation type trade, right? We're going to look for pullbacks to 813. The market struggled to get back into the prior distribution area. All right, you're adding pretty decent volume here. Buyers are trying to step in. All right, we're going to quick rotations, lots of volume being added. Like this is if this is an imbalance continuation trade where you trade from the low volume area, your targeting is not that great. All right. So we rotated up here into that low volume area around 6813. Kind of rejected it, but not really. We had divergence with buyers stepping in. So if this was an imbalance continuation, you would probably see more rejection of the 6813s. All right, we'd probably see some divergence, some sellers stepping in, right? But we're just kind of like chopping and rotating in this area. So I don't think this is an imbalance continuation type trade. I don't think the probabilities favor that, even though now you do have the seller stepping in. I think we're just filling this in a little too much. We're spending a little too much time here. We're rotating within a very tight range, right? We're adding pretty good volume here. All right, this is acceptance. This isn't rejection. All right, we want prices to reject when we take trades. All right, a little easier to move down. All right, adding good volume at the lows, rotating several times. So I still don't think we found the bottom here. Based on the distribution shape, I still think we're looking at mean reversion type trades. I think that's where the probabilities are. This does not look like a breakdown. So what we want is some good divergence on the buy side if we can get it. We want the market to attempt to rotate down and unable to do so, unable to add volume to the downside, and then quickly snap back up. That's when we know when we have our rejection. We don't have that. It doesn't look like yet. All right, the market is just freely kind of moving in this area back and forth, right? Prices are here are generally accepted. It seems like you're going to extend the lows a little bit, right? You didn't get the massive build of volume at the lows and then another snap down, right? When you get the continual snaps with the low volume areas, that's more of an imbalance. If you're rotating down here and then you are kind of, yeah, I think you're just rotating too much down here. There's too much volume being added, too much price acceptance. Getting more signs of the divergence, more sign that buyers are willing to step in. We have not seen sellers step in down here, right? And then the quick snap back up. So I haven't seen all this. I mean, I feel like a mean reversion trade will work, but we need to see more rejection at the lows or near the lows or towards the, well, and then you got another quick snap. Yeah, that was just an absolute flood of contracts right there that did that. So let's see if we can rotate back down towards the lows. I mean, it is possible that we're now going to find balance here, right? Look how much volume we're building, and we don't have that much farther to go to drag the POC and value area much lower. And if that happens, trading becomes a little funky because we don't have really good structure to short back into the value area unless it's all the way up here in 828. Right, we could absolutely just be finding balance down here. All right, lots of activity on the offer. Like you don't want to take what looks like a normal distribution and start shorting out of value down here at the lows, thinking that it's automatically going to turn into an imbalance type day. Like, I don't think you want to try to predict the shape of the distribution that much. You got to deal with what you're given. And right now, if you look at this TPO chart, that's pretty normalized. And again, we're not seeing sellers. Like how right when I said that, it was like, oh, we don't see sellers stepping in at much lower prices. And then they immediately stepped in. They're watching me. Yeah, I wish. So ideally right now, what I'm looking for is a retest of these 6807s, 806s, and see if the market quickly rejects it. And it's hard to add volume down there. If it's hard to add volume down there, the market rejects it very quickly and retraces. And hopefully we get some delta divergence. That might be a long, but now you've got the presence of sellers stepping in here. And positive deltas are not getting you very far here. Right, you've had positive delta here, 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 and then price just has not moved. And now the value area has been dragged lower. So we'll see what develops here. I don't see any high probability trading just yet. Right, with sellers present here, we have not seen a great job of buyers down here at the lows. Right now, the point of control is right here, so price is just going to get hung up here if we trade into this. Lots of good structure to trade into. This is poor structure to trade from, but it's great structure to trade into. So let's see what happens as we now start approaching the lows. Does the market quickly snap back? Is it easy to add volume on the downside, or is it easier to add it when the market starts ticking up? Right, you kind of just saw the snapback, right? Like the volume was pretty low getting towards the lows and then snapped back up and was able to add some volume. All right, but sellers are present here. They are present. You get the flashes of the divergence. Why does my phone keep the wife? They only do local injection. It works just fine for 9-year-olds. Yeah, okay. I think my son's gonna sit still for that. Hilarious. My oldest son, my 9-year-old, has to have an extra tooth pulled. Yeah. Much easier to rotate higher. Getting some activity on the bid towards a high. That's a good sign, right? Like, I don't want to get hung up on this point of control thing. All right. If we struggle to rotate back down here, I mean, 830 might be a great target for a trade. But look at that. Just slide down. Things just slid. And there could be a lot of chop in here. This is just broken structure. We're within value. The market can just rotate back and forth in here and just add lots of volume. So I really haven't seen anything extraordinarily compelling for either side now. I mean, we talked about the shorts at 937 up here, right here, right? When the market was struggling to rotate what was then just outside value. And then we just saw a little bit of the struggle here at 807 with the sellers trying to take things lower. You got the quick snapback. There was low volume built on the rotation down and much more volume built on the rotation up. Getting more divergence buyers trying to step in. But they're going to get a little chop here. Ideally, right, if you want to take this long, okay, and you're going to be longing essentially at the POC, you want to see the struggle right here, just below the POC. Unable to get below this position. It comes down and snaps back up. All right, that's what ideally we want to see. The also might be entertaining the idea of taking a long here because we're resisting this low volume area here. All right. But are we doing a great job of resisting it? No, you're not getting like the super quick snapbacks. You do see the flashes of the buyer divergence. But if this was truly to be a held area, you would have probably saw more resistance here at 813. You saw the immediate snapbacks, and you didn't really get that. Now, if this market just, rocket ships up back to 830 to test those sellers again, and sellers are here trying to step on the buyers. Yeah, I'm really entertaining it along here, just based off the way this order flow is going. Like, he did not add many contracts on this downward move. Right? You put a stop low if you can. Limit at 6814. Try it. Right before we do anything. Yeah, I think I want to market buy it. All right, so a little bet on the fill at 81525. I do want my stop below this, so we'll do 809 on the stop. Okay. This is kind of an imbalance continuation type trade. I'm looking for here 828, 827s. So I will put in a limit order at 827. Okay, I'm going to put this in my log because we're struggling to rotate. Every time we rotate down into there, we struggle to add volume. Three long 6815.25. Our stop is 09. And our take profit at the moment is still 27. And this is an imbalance trade. All right, POC moved up. That's good, right? So now we're saying like you're struggling to get outside of value. All right, there's a lot of pressure building here. So I'll move my stop if we're targeting like 827. We're in at 15 and a quarter. I would say 21 right here. Let's make it just a flat 21. All right, we get to 21, we'll move to break even. And depending on how this rotates up, if it rotates up, we'll make adjustments to our profit target, whether or not we want to trail the stop or we just want to leave the solid limit order at 827. All right. So let's see if we can get some rotations up and we snap the sellers that are just holding this down. All right, but we saw some good absorption here. These rotations down didn't garner a lot of volume, getting a lot more volume on the rotations up. It just feels easier for me, this market, to rotate up than it is rotate down. And the buyers are stepping in. They get snapped, but I think this is a pretty decent probable trade here. We're holding this ledge. Stop is still at 809. It's down here. All right, this is some good wiggle room to work with. All right, the market, if this is truly holding, will not really want to go below this midpoint here, which is right about here, 812s. Like if you get heavy rotations and lots of volume added down here, or we're screwed. But you're getting plenty of divergence on the buy side. Buyers are willing to step in here. We have divergence at our back. We're defending an edge and value area edge. Is it ideal that we just took a trade right at the POC? Absolutely not. Right? This is a very imperfect world and markets are imperfect. Now we're spending a lot of time right here. All right. I mean, if you get stopped, you get stopped, right? You want to snap back. We don't want to see heavy rotations here. We don't want to see a lot of volume built. And you're getting volume built and you're struggling to rotate back up. So we're not going to scratch it. We're just going to leave it. All right, you got a quick snap back up. That's good. That's a good look. All right, that was a heavy negative delta flow right there. And the buyers were able to hold it. That's a good sign. All right, you just made a good, honest, hard attempt to drive prices lower, and you couldn't do it. And this is also why we hit our stop behind this, right? If this is a position right here, like with all this, right, you just really tried to snap the buyers here and you were not able to do it. Who's the next to potentially capitulate? It's going to be the sellers, right? They just made a good, hard, earnest attempt to break this and they couldn't do it. So we'll see if we can snap up here. I mean, I feel like we would have already snapped up and start filling this. And then test these sellers up at 827 again. I'm spending a lot of time here, which makes me very uncomfortable. But the negative delta flow, look at this negative delta flow that we've had. And just prices are not moving lower. Sellers are not getting the bang for the buck that they're really looking for. I mean, we came close again, stopped. I mean, we're with 1 point and a quarter. Now, maybe they try again. Who knows? You know, We can say all we want about what we're seeing in the markets, but then someone just comes in with a ton of size and just moves the market in whichever direction that they want to. Right. But I mean, we're starting to slow down here on these rotations lower, not adding a ton of volume. Right. You see the slowdown. Right. The market is going to want to facilitate trade. It's going to go to a spot where, there's a lot more rotation, a lot more volume being built. They're getting pretty good volume here on these rotations up. Right. You saw it pretty slow on the rotations down, and on rotations up, you're adding a lot more volume. Continual divergence here. Okay. And we got stopped. Damn it. If it is another news headline and then I'm just getting absolutely destroyed by news headlines, I mean, it is what it is. Fucking A. Trump to PBS, Hezbollah and Lebanon will get taken care of too. Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So we're out of that trade at 10:09. On a sudden injection of liquidity. Let's check to make sure we didn't get slippage. No, it was good. It was clean at 6809. 6809. Okay. Saw buyers step in lower here, trying to take things back up towards value. Right. So you had sellers defending this little ledge right here at 818. You had the buyers defending here at 813. The buyers got snapped, but then stepped in lower. What are you going to do? Yeah, I mean, the headlines over the past couple of weeks and just absolutely destroying trades sucks. It really does. Make trading great again, would you please? I mean, there's still a good thesis here for us snapping this. You've made several attempts here lower and just not doing. Buyers are stepping in, right? Do we want to market buy this again and just try it out? Yeah, I mean, I still think we're snapping this. I really do. We're going to snap these sellers. It's just we're constantly defending this. All right, so I'm going to do it again. Let's see if we can't rotate lower here into this low volume area. Yeah. So I'm going to buy the market, 815 fill. Again, I will do the 809 stop. Okay. And at 815, I'm going to re-put my limit order for the sell at 827. Yeah, I could just be an absolute dummy here, but I do like what I'm seeing. And at 1010, we are on the long. 6815. My stop is at 09 right here. You don't want to see heavy volumes build here. Don't want to see it. We're going to get snapped again. 6809. Balance. Oh, this is reversion, technically. Okay. Let's see what happens. You don't want to see it spending time here around 6810. You really don't. You want it to rotate down and then quickly snap back up. But this negative divergence that we're seeing, or essentially the positive divergence on behalf of buyers, look at the delta stream here. This has just been constant selling. But what that tells you is buyers are actively absorbing here. Right? They're happy to take this price. Right? If sellers continually just sell, getting worse and worse fills, they're eventually going to get snapped. Like, I think this is a very good trade thesis right here. There's a lot of pressure building on the sellers. I mean, maybe do I want my stop at 08? Yeah, but that's probably too much risk considering I got filled at 815. So we're long at 815. We're looking for a move towards the highs, towards like 827. All right, I still have my limit order up there. And it really depends if we can get the rotations up here, right, through 818s. All right, I'll move my stop at 820, 821, somewhere in here, 820, 821. Right, if we can get above where the sellers previously held down the market, if we break them, then I'll move my stop to break even. And ideally, I mean, we snap and we're going to hopefully rocket ship up. And depending if we get that move and how fast it moves and then how the rotations look, that will tell us whether or not we need to use a limit order at 2.7 or if we just trail it. Right? Because if we think we're just going to run the highs, we want to trail that stop and try to get most out of this trade that we possibly can. So you're back in profit just barely. All right, the market is just like it's back and forth here, back and forth around the POC. You get a lot of volatility around the POC. And honestly, it's kind of hard to classify what this kind of trade is because we're like right at the POC, right? Is this a mean reversion trade or is this an imbalance continuation trade? I don't know if we can really classify this one. It's just there's a lot of pressure building here. Buyers have stepped in. Someone's going to get snapped, right? It's going to be the buyers or the sellers. But this is such heavy negative delta flow, and just the market is just not going down, right? That I think it's more probable that you snap up than you snap down. We've tried these couple snaps down here and then quickly rejected. It was pretty quick. So we're getting more than 2-to-1 if we can get our 2.7 target. But slow rotating up here, very slow, hard to build the volume right now. Right, you want to see more volume being built here. They're just not really getting it. And then you're seeing the flashes of the seller divergence at the 818s. So we'll see. This could just be consolidation before further breakdown. We've had a constant stream of negative deltas that just didn't get very far. So now let's get a string of positive deltas that just rocket ship the market. How about that? Again, I think 820 up here is a good place to move our stop to break even. We get it. It'll be a 1R roughly. All right, 2-1 will technically be 1R. Just waiting. And the market is struggling on each side here. And the struggle is real, folks. But I like we see the continual divergence on the buy side. I mean, honestly, the best way to play this would be an options trade. All right, because you know price is not going to stay here. And it's going to rocket ship either up or down. This is so much pressure just building right here around 815. Like you have sellers right above it and you have buyers right below it. And they're just pushing back on each other until someone capitulates. All right, negative delta flow gets you nowhere. Positive delta flow is not really getting you anywhere. Would it maybe be better wait for the snap and then try to trade the pullback? Yeah, probably. But just the constant struggle to get down into the 812s and in that area. And like, this is just such a heavy ledge now. This is so heavy. There's so much volume has been built here. And then you still see the divergence on the sell side. You know, I think we got a pretty decent stop where it is. All right, again, stopped all the way down here. All right, below the low volume area. As price, it should really start resisting on this ledge right here. That's where you should see heavy resistance, if not right here. You start rotating heavily down here, your trade is done. And then now we're just facing the divergence. Don't really want to scratch the trade because of this. This inability just to break above here. But I mean, then we're going to really hate myself if I just scratch this right here at break even and then just have it do exactly what I thought it was going to do. All right, these haven't been heavy positive delta flows. Right, you see a heavy positive delta flow that goes nowhere, that might be trouble. So a flash that buyers are willing to step in at a slightly higher price here, right? Holding right at that ledge that we were talking about. Is it easy to rotate down, or is it easier to rotate up? I would make the argument that neither is really working right now. And our trade is almost turning into a coin flip, unfortunately. Yeah. You want the quick snap back up, please. Snap back up. All right, we do not want continual rotations and volume being built down here. If we do, then I might move my limit order to 6815 and try to bail on the trade. You got to move back up. Got to move back up. You're not snapping up. Snap up. No, you're not snapping up. All right. We're gonna get stopped again. That sucks. Yep, stopped. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Yeah, we're trading around the POC and we're getting screwed because of it. Right. No bueno. No bueno indeed. If you're watching this, I absolutely apologize for just stinking up the room right now. All right, our stop is essentially where our order should be. Because I mean, like, how tempting is it going to be if it rotates now back up here? Right? Are you going to want to hit the market buy again for a third time at 6815? Like, that'd be crazy. All right, but I need to make sure I got no more orders in. Were we filled clean? We were filled clean. See, now it rotates right back up here. And don't you want to hit the market buy button again? Like we do. But now my rules say I need to drop half size because I've already had 2 losses. And I'm trying, essentially, just keep trying the same trade. I'm just trying the same trade over and over again here. All right. I'll try it one more time. So filled at 6815 again. Stop at 6809. Limit order at 27. This is now half size. And if we get stopped out this time, and then we're just absolutely done for the day, which will suck. But I think the read is good. It's just we're getting stopped. You're just getting stopped. What are you going to do? We're long again at the 6-8, lovely 1-5. Stop continues to be at 6-8-1-9. We're still looking for that 6-8-2-7s. Give me the 6-8-2-7s. Again, what the classification on this trade is, I do not know. And get stopped out again. We are absolutely done trying this. Absolutely. Like, you cannot just keep getting chopped up in the same spot over and over and over again. So I'm a little behind on my log. Let's catch up a little quick. Stop was filled at 1020. It was clean at 6809. Okay, we're caught up now. Just cross your fingers on this one now, right? Cross your fingers. Like, if the sellers capitulate here, if this pops, it's gonna pop. It's gonna go hard. But you need the sellers to disappear at 818. I don't want to move if this trade finally starts to work, I don't want to move the stop too early. Like, I'll move it at 821 if we ever get up there. We don't want to see flashes of seller divergence right here. You don't want to see it. And sellers have not followed price lower. They're just holding the line up here at 818. Like as I'm saying, like you should see absolutely no more rotations down, and then it just rotates down, starts to add good volume. Like a mother, oh god. With like one winner today. I don't care if it's at half size. We're at half size right now. Still in at 815, stop at 809, looking for a move up towards 827 when last place that seller stepped in aggressively. All right, let's break them at 817. They're present at 817. We need to break them. The market is finding it pretty easy to rotate down here at 813 though. All right, you're adding pretty good volume on the downward rotations. Part of me just wants to walk away and just let this play out because, watching this, and especially after you had 2 losses at the same exact level, you take 3 losses at the same level on the third attempt. Like, oh man, that's emotionally rough. Again, getting the divergence. All right, you're getting the quick snap up, and there was single rotation down. All right, and then you rotate right back up. That was good that you're not adding a ton of volume there on those rotations down. But then it broke that 305 level. Just not adding a ton of volume here. Like the market, I think, is setting itself up to move. And just we need some initiative on the behalf of buyers to break those sellers at 818. And we get stopped out again. We get stopped out again. That sucks. Yeah, I think we're pretty much going to get cooked now. This is some pretty heavy rotations down here. Oh, my footprint, is it freezing? My footprint froze for a minute there. Dom was still responding. That's good. And we're getting closer. Stops at 809 still. All right, the market is able to rotate pretty easily down here. Like we're going to hit our stop at 809 probably for sure. But I'm not going to scratch the trade because, now we're acting out of pure emotions, right? So one tick away and stopped. We got stopped out again at 6809. So that's third time in a row, and we are now done for the day. That sucks. Absolutely sucks. You're just not reading these rejections and acceptance clearly at all. All right, and then is this part of my fault just looking at a normalized distribution and expecting we're going to move away from the POC back towards out of value? Yeah, I don't know. All right, and like again, this is 6809 should probably be the entry. All right, it's hard not to feel despondent about this because we're just getting absolutely destroyed, and we've been destroyed like the last few days. It's just everything I've tried just has not worked. All right, and then do you want to load? Actually take that appropriate reversion trade now? It's just like, yeah, but you can't. We're done. Yeah, we got screwed. Make sure we got out clean at 09, and then we did. So I'll update our log. I've got to open up another spreadsheet though. There it is. So 6815 on the first one, quarter 6809. 3125 per contract. This one 31.25. I'm just updating my trade log. I keep a spreadsheet of all my trades. Yeah. And then this was 6185. Shows a straight 30 per contract. Oops. There we go. Oh, this was size 4. There we go. Yeah. Oh, we lost above our limit today, just a little bit, because their stop wasn't exactly 5 points; it was 6 points. Oh well. Yeah, just absolutely, just don't even know what to say at this moment. Just don't even know what to say. Just absolutely destroyed today, and we're destroyed yesterday. Broke even on Monday and destroyed last Friday too. And part of it's been news releases. Part of it's just not reading acceptance and rejection very clearly. I don't even know if I hit the record button today. Yeah, we did, but unbelievable. Yeah, seller stepping in here at lower prices. Maybe you finally get your breakdown. All this negative delta flow here. Just absolutely the selling of contracts. Do you just finally break the buyers if they had enough? I mean, look at it. We've just been going back and forth in this region, just getting absolutely nowhere. And absolutely nowhere. Still easy to rotate here out of value, right? You rotate down, you're still adding contracts, you're not getting the quick snapbacks, right? Now, I mean, we thought the buyers were going to capitulate, but I mean, we thought that the sellers were going to capitulate here at 818, and it just seems like the buyers are capitulating. They've had enough. And that kind of makes sense, right? You're buying at such high prices relative to yesterday's value. So, I mean, pretty good rotations, pretty good volume build. A lot of business is being done on the offer here. Negative delta flows are finally actually able to get you somewhere. Positive delta flows are not getting you anywhere, right? Just they got nowhere. But the sellers for a while were getting nowhere too. And they finally were able to start breaking. But does it look like an imbalance where you're going to trend down now? No, it doesn't look like that. Right. And as much as I love to take additional shots at this market, you can't. You can't. Right. You got to follow your rules. And I have a 3 trade maximum. And then, we tried essentially the same trade thesis 3 times in a row, and it did not work. Right. We were pretty confident that we were going to break the sellers at 818, and we just couldn't do it. We tried and they couldn't do it. And then you get the flashes of divergence, sellers stepping in. Right. You're getting a lot of volume added on the downside. Right. We were just directionally, we knew someone was going to break. It was just, we were wrong about who was going to break. It was the buyers that broke. Not getting a very quick snapback, rotating pretty cleanly, adding lots of good volume down here. All right. It's still a trend breakdown. This is absolutely not. You're still looking at a normalized distribution shape, right? You still favor mean reversion trades. All right. Going long here out of value back to the POC, the 815 area. Buyer stepping in, but it's at lower prices. Still able to rotate down pretty easily. All right, it's until you see these rotations down that add a little bit of volume, but then snap back up on high volume. That's what you want. That's a good, clear rejection. This market isn't cleanly rejecting the lows, and a lot of heavy rotations. All right, getting the signs of the divergence. Sellers they're willing to step in at much lower, and they're stepping in out of value. I don't see any flashes of the buyer divergence yet. Still able to rotate down pretty cleanly. It's not a long. Yeah, I came in today with pretty high hopes for my trading abilities, especially after I did my review last night. And kind of saw where my mistakes were over the last couple days. I mean, not all of them were mistakes, but there was a couple reads there where I was like, "Oh, was that a clear rejection, or were you just anxious to trade out of value back into value?" All right, and so I tried to be a little more patient, a little more disciplined today. I think we lost focus a little bit of what our distribution shape was, right? That we're looking at a normalized distribution. There's really no science yet that this is an imbalanced type trend day, right? So where the probabilities lie on distribution shapes like this, they're in mean reversion trades. All right, and here we are trading at the POC, hoping that we get back towards out of value or towards the value area high. That's, it's one of those things at the moment you're like, oh, this looks great. And look at the pressure building. And you think you have all these things in your favor. And then upon reflection, when you review the trade 6 hours later or whatever, and you watch the video and you're just like, what are you doing? All right. This is a balanced distribution. Why are you trading right at the POC, hoping to get out of value? Like, it's kind of crazy. So if there was one mistake today, that is the general overarching mistake, right? Because that's eventually the first step in your process when you deal with order flow and auction theory, is trying to develop an idea of what the distribution looks like. Is it a normalized distribution? Is it imbalanced? Are we creating low volume areas that are being respected, or are they being filled in? And it's a little confusing today because you do have low volume areas being respected. At least that 818 was very well respected. But then some of the other ones are not being respected at all. Right, and you have sellers stepping in here at the lows. You still had pretty good rotations down here, pretty good volume build. Like, that doesn't look like a good clean low to me. And the idea that sellers are willing to step in at much lower prices is probably not a good sign. Yeah, but we absolutely just have to be disciplined and just cut ourselves off for the rest of the day today and come back with some fresh eyes tomorrow. I mean, we have no one to blame but ourselves on that one. As much as I want to blame like news for taking me out of a trade, like it just shoots me down through my stop. Like, that's not really the reason. The reason is myself and my analysis. Right? We're all over the idea that this is normalized distribution. Right? Everything about this is telling us this is normalized distribution. But then we ended up not taking mean reversion trades. Let this be a lesson to you, folks. And that swing low was 6813 ish. Yeah, it's just a disappointing trading day. It's been a few disappointing trading days. It's even worse that we just started streaming. I don't know what effect the videos are having on all this. If I'm just like self conscious and just like eager to trade, this will work itself out a little bit. I think this is mostly beneficial to my trading and not hurtful, I would hope, because it gives me the ability to review videos and to talk through my thought process as I'm trading and stuff. Like, if I was just all alone in my office in my house, just trading all by myself, I'd probably make a lot more mistakes. Right? I could easily trade a fourth time by myself and just absolutely start like blowing accounts and stuff. It's pretty easy to do that when there's no one watching. But when there's people watching and you say, hey, I have a 3 trade limit, and you better stick to that fucking 3 trade limit, let me tell you. And one thing that has been absolutely disastrous in my past is if I have a very disappointing morning, like, there's a part of me that's going to want to come back in the afternoon session and try to make it up. That never ends well. Never ends well. Right? Don't trade for the idea that like you're going to make money or get something back that you lost. You trade for the opportunities. Let the opportunities present themselves, and then you take the trade. You don't trade for results. You don't trade for the P&L. I still don't like these rejections of the lows. I don't think it was a very clear rejection. And we've just slowly drifted down all day. Looking at the absorption, the sellers have just been able to hold and the buyers have not. Again, in retrospect, like when we look back at this and we're saying, hey, normalized distribution, buyers capitulated. like earlier, right? They were trying to hold 812 earlier and they weren't able to do it. And the market broke it, came back, and then the sellers started stepping in around that same area, around 815. That probably should have been enough to dissuade me from trying to get long there. Was it a good short? I don't think so. But like my big analysis will come about 6 hours later this evening after dinner when I rewatch the videos and take notes on what it is that I'm articulating. Was this good high probability trades? Were the areas that I can prove? Essentially, I keep a trade journal. Okay, so every evening when I review my video of like, okay, where were the trades? What was I looking at? I ask myself three questions. So what did I do well today? What did I not do well today? And what are the areas that I can improve upon tomorrow? All right. Well, the obvious answer for this is follow the shape of the distribution, right? When it's pretty clear that we're looking at a pretty balanced day, right? There's no signs that this is an imbalanced continuation. We have not really created low volume areas. We've had no explosions in either direction, right? This is normalized distribution, odds favor, mean reversion trades. Stick to the plan. All right. And this positive delta flow, which is just not getting you anywhere here, right? Positive delta flow, positive delta flow, positive delta flow, positive delta flow, and we're getting nowhere. But likewise, sellers aren't really getting far either. And we're getting really slow down here, kind of. Right, we're still able to rotate into the lows, right? And we're not seeing the quick snapback of rejection, right? That you would want to see, and you'd also probably want to see some divergence down here. But in terms of if we're in like a price discovery mode and we're extending the edges of this distribution, looking for where the bottom of it is, like probably getting pretty close to the bottom, just the way this is rotating and the minimal amount of volume that we're adding. Is it a long? Yeah, I don't think you want to be long just yet. And then, this is trading is such an imperfect thing, right? There's so many factors that you have to consider at all times. And you try to make it simple for yourself by like limiting the amount of information that you're intaking. But when you have conflicting pieces of information, is there a trade there? Or do you just wait for all the information just to be completely one sided? If you wait for information all to be completely one-sided, where you only have the divergence at your back, you only have the distribution shape in your favor, you have clear rejection on the order flow. If you waited for those moments, you're probably never going to be able to take a trade because the market just never gives you those absolutely perfect moments. It's so good at instilling just a flake of doubt to always keep you guessing. Did I make the right decision? Did I make the wrong decision? What was the information telling me? Right. Even that you've got flat, like again, this whole divergent thing. We're looking at a normalized distribution, right? Like it looks pretty clean as of the moment as to what it's kind of shaping out to be. And the probabilities favor mean reversion trades. But if you look at the absorption trend, it's telling you it is just slowly drifting down, right? Anytime the buyers have stepped in to try to hold this up, it has not worked. So then the question becomes, do you ignore the shape of the distribution for the day and just follow the absorption, wait for a pullback, wait for the sellers to give a clear signal that they're willing to step in at a level and then take that trade? Everyone's got a different way to do it. I repeatedly think to myself, and this is one of the biggest questions that I have because I'm so adamant about not looking at prior market movements, is a distribution of volume just a reflection of what the market previously did? Can we use that information to decipher what potentially the future market is going to move to? I can't answer that question. It is one of those theoretical questions I ask myself repeatedly. I find myself just sitting there and thinking about that question because part of me thinks that looking at volume distributions is just a look at the past, and there no information can be gleaned from it for future trading, and that you're better off looking at absorption trends and then just looking at rejection, acceptance and rejection at a level, and not using the profile to discern where those levels are. Auction theory. It's theory. And so it's going to be a question I'm going to grapple with probably for a long time. Right. So you saw the seller step in there at 6,805, that low volume area. The rotations down here, you were able to build some volume, but we're getting really slow down here. All right. Not adding much volume on the downticks. There you go. You got a little bit more there, right? When we said that, of course. But you have to make trading unique to you. It's got to fit your style and the way you view the markets. There's no, I mean, some ways are better than others, but at the end of the day, if it makes you money, who the hell cares what the methodology is? If you use like the moon and the stars and it repeatedly makes you money, use the goddamn moon and the stars, man. But probably don't use the moon and stars. It's probably not a reliable indicator, but you get my point. Like, you can get information from a lot of different sources. I think auction theory and order flow tend to be the best information, because you're really looking at what the plumbing of the market is, what actually moves the market, the interaction between buyers and sellers that are trying to unload and load up their books. Like, people can hint all day, like, oh, I have 1,000 contracts to sell here, I have 1,000 contracts to buy here, but until you actually sell and buy those 1,000 contracts, it doesn't mean anything. Right? That's why I absolutely hate looking at things like Bookmap, where resting limit orders are. I mean, those people come in with 1,000 orders, they quickly eliminate them. Sometimes they feel part of it, sometimes they don't feel part of it. It's just like, you flash intention, but is it your true intention? I don't think it is. That's why I like looking at filled contracts and not the potentially filled contracts. Like, yeah, there could be a resting limit order right here at 6,803 for like 10,000 contracts that I'm, completely ignoring something. Is there? If I look at the DOM VS, no, there's not that. And we're just hanging out here at the lows. Just the slow grind down continues. Thought we were going to get our pop at 815. We didn't. Got stopped out not once, not twice, but 3 times the charm at 809. Third time on half size per my rules. Like, my drawdown rule per day is a 0.5%. I do not like to lose more than a 0.5% in any given day. Right? Because then that allows me, essentially, with the drawdown rules, 8 straight losing days of a 0.5% before I would blow an account. All right, able to add volume to the downside, still rotating down, still adding to the distribution. Market respected 805s. You saw the flashes of the divergence of the seller stepping in. Does part of me believe that I should absolutely eliminate the distribution? Yes. And I'm going to grapple with that question even later today, because like, after the last few days, like, just been so purely focused on the shape of the distribution, even though we've gotten the shapes right, just has not resulted in profitable trades. And if you have a piece of information that's not resulting in profitable trades and it's just not helping you, should you even have that piece of information? Like, and these are the questions you'll always grapple with. Like, am I assigning too much weight to the shape of the distribution and ignoring like what the potential trend of the market is, if there's even a trend? Right? Because if you were to look at this absorption chart, right, from immediately when the market opened and we moved up above 830, like the seller stepped in, and then they kept stepping in. And then we had buyers step in at 815, but then the seller stepped in again at 828, right? When we're talking about at exactly 937, about short and 828, 827s, because the market was just absolutely struggling to rotate out of value. Like the struggle was real, folks. And then the sellers just were able to overwhelm the buyers and push the market back below where they were defending at 815. Like after that point, after 950, should we have been telling ourselves, hey, we probably only want to favor shorts here because the sellers are being absolutely relentless and not giving up? But this generally isn't a good time to make those decisions. You want some time to pass. You want your emotions to settle down a little bit and then try to objectively come back and look at those pieces of information. Be like, okay, was this hurtful or was this helpful? Should I continue to wait as much as I did or wait a little bit less? Right? There is variance in wins and losses. You will have strings of losses. This absolutely happens. Right. But when you start getting the strings of losses that are like have less than 1% probability of happening, you need to start asking yourself some questions. Right. And as we rotate up here into this little node right here, like all this business is being done on the offer, seeing all their flashes of the sellers. Right. We had some pretty good rotations down here. Is this now a sell down to the lows? Well, if you're just paying attention to the shape of the distribution, it is not. But if you're paying attention to what the absorption trend of the day is, that's a sell. So trading is hard, folks. Never said it was going to be. This is one of the hardest ways to make easy money. Absolutely. All right, it's great to spend time with my family and my kids and be a stay-at-home dad, but I mean, the emotional nightmare is real, folks. Like the swings of this, the strings of profits that you make followed by the strings of losses. My goodness, it is emotionally rough. But as they say in poker, we're pot committed now, folks. We are all in. There's no getting away from this. Right. And like part of you, if you're a contrarian and you've seen that sellers have just stepped in and hammering the market, don't you want to be the guy that's like, yo, yeah, but I'm a buyer. And then when I bought, the market snapped and we snapped the sellers and it fucking exploded. Like that's a great story. It's an improbable story though, it seems like today. So we got about 9 minutes left in my trading session. Again, not even gonna bother trying to take another trade here. Like I absolutely smoked myself today. Took 3 shots at the same trade, the same level, and it just did not work all 3 times. Did not work. Oh well. We live to fight another day. But it probably will be beneficial. You know what, honestly, I'm not going to trade again today. That's just absolutely not under consideration. But part of me wants to drop my size a little bit tomorrow. All right, just until I gain a little bit more confidence in my reads. Because of the past 3 trading days, like the reads have not been great. Read the distribution as well, but the where I was executing just was not. Yeah, and it's just like the sellers are just like there's, in it's all very easy to say in hindsight, like, oh, this is what the market did. But reading it as it's occurring and then trading effectively is so difficult. But you gotta stick with it. Gotta stick with it. You treat each one of these losses as a learning opportunity. If you just take a loss and you don't reflect upon it and try to find out whether or not it was just a variance, right? You can have absolutely beautiful trades that just do not work, right? The guy on the toilet was like my favorite thing. The guy, who was on a toilet break came back and then just hit the sell button for 1,000 contracts and just blew out all the bids or blew out all the offers and hit your stop. That happens. You can't control that. Mark Douglas talks about it in his book about one trader can literally destroy your trade. There's nothing you can do about it. Was it Mind Over Markets? No, that's a volume profile book. What the hell is Mark Douglas's book called? It's purple. Trading in the Zone. It's called Trading in the Zone. It's on my bookshelf somewhere. I've got so many trading books. It's ridiculous. But in Trading in the Zone, he talks about that. Like, you can have the very high probable trade. You can have the best system in the world that, you know, is accurate 90% of the time or something. But 10 times out of 100, even that doesn't work. Why? Because the man on the toilet came back and hit the fucking goddamn sell button on you and blew out all the bids. It happens. But I mean, look how slow and anemic this market is down here. Like, you're near the lows, right? It doesn't really matter if sellers are stepping in. There just doesn't seem to be a ton of liquidity down here. All right, but you want better signs of rejection. If you're going to do like a mean reversion trade on this one. But the question is, do you want to do a mean reversion trade after what this market is just slowly trending down? We've been slowly trending down all morning, despite what the shape of the distribution has been. But you got to remain positive. You got to have a positive attitude and positive expectations. You can't dwell on it. It's absolutely piss poor last few trading days. Can't be helped. Well, I mean, it can be helped. What are we saying? It can absolutely be helped. But you got to do the review later in the day. Don't do it at the time because emotions are high. Emotions are still a little high for me right now. You know, it sucks taking losses. I wish every trade was a win, but that is not the case. Not the case at all. And you still getting decent rotations here at the lows, right? Just any bounce back, it's just absorbed, right? It's absolutely absorbed, right? And so you'd be continually fucked. Even if you did follow the normal distribution today and we're trying to buy outside of value on the lows, would any of those trades work today? No. Right? Because we've completely discounted the fact that we've just been trending down, and anytime buyers have stepped in, they've just have not been able to hold shit. Sellers have overwhelmed them repeatedly. I mean, part of me just does not want to have the profile on my chart tomorrow. You know, it is one of the questions I continually, I've been asking myself this question for a very long time. Does volume profiles and distributions actually help or hurt your trading? Right? Because we kept on saying, like, this isn't an imbalanced continuation. This isn't imbalanced, right? But isn't it acting like it? Right? It's trending down. Imbalanced continuation favors imbalanced continuation trades. But we keep saying, oh, it's normalized distribution because, you know, the volume is tapering off down here. But who's to say all of a sudden you don't find a bunch of volume down here? So is it better just to trade with the absorptions and the absorption trend, right? Or is it better to trade the distribution? You know, who knows? Maybe we come into the market tomorrow and I just completely eliminate the distribution from my trading. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's a fascinating concept, right? Like, is this just past experience, right? Is this what the market previously did? Jim Simmons' biography, I can't recall the name of it. And honestly, I don't know where the hell it is on my bookshelf. I don't even know what actually bookshelf it's on. I've got a bunch of bookshelves in here, and I don't, with so many trading books. Anyway, Jim Simmons talks about this. He's the founder of Renaissance Capital. He was formerly a mathematician who turned code breaker for the U.S. government. And then while he was working as a code breaker for the U.S. government, started trading stocks and started trying to find out formulas for stocks. One of his biggest things about markets is this mathematical concept called Markov chains, where the future state of a market is not dependent upon its previous states. It's only dependent upon its current state. So past information does not help you, right? If you have a stock and it's trading at $100, it doesn't matter if it was trading previously at 110 or 90. All that matters is that it's currently trading at 100 and what that precise data point provides you. And that's stuck with me ever since I read that book about prior states and current states. And it makes you think about like candlesticks and how people are continually trying to find price patterns that do not work. And then they just find another price pattern that doesn't work. And then they find another price pattern that doesn't work. Because humans' ability to find patterns is absolutely terrible. We see patterns everywhere that just do not exist. And if you have candlestick charts where there's potentially, things that look like patterns all over the place, like it absolutely fucks your trading, right? Using candlesticks is one of the worst things you can do. But getting back to my earlier statement, if you have something that makes you profit and you can do it consistently, just fucking do that. It doesn't matter what did I say about candlesticks not having any reliable predictability. Like if it makes you money, like who the fuck cares? Like that's the name of this game, is to make some money. Now you see some, and again, like I'm not exactly articulating what I'm seeing in the markets right now because we've already hit our 3 loss maximum. So now it's just we've digressed and just to a rant about volume distributions and everything else. So I do apologize, but I mean I don't know how really to trade this. The volume distribution is telling you one thing, and then the absorption trend is telling you a complete opposite thing. And then if you always wait for those two things to align, you're hardly ever going to be trading. And then again, even with like the see how many conflicting pieces of information you have just like going in your head. Like you have all these theories and all these concepts and how they're all blended together within your head. And then at the end of the day, you need to execute trades, right? Because I'm telling you like, oh, prior information doesn't even matter. But then I'm telling you like, oh, look at the absorption trend, right? The sellers are getting farther than the buyers are, right? You had a lot of buyer absorption here at the 810s, which we tried to get behind with our stop at 809 and going long at 815, hoping for a run back up into the 828 sell area. But that's prior information, isn't it? Right. So is that better prior information than a candlestick pattern prior information? But it also is that just you finding patterns where no patterns exist? It all blows my mind. But it's fun. It's fun to try to figure this out. It's not fun taking losses. It's more fun having wins, but you got to try to remain emotionally neutral through all of it if you can. And so you're finally starting to get a little bit of that reversion. We did not see sellers step in to take this lower. Last place that we saw sellers step in was around 6805. All right, it's up in this low volume here, volume area right below value. And you're starting to see absorption here on the offer. Right, if you start seeing flashes of the divergence, like is that a sell back down to the lows where you had all this volume built and it rotated pretty easily? It could be. But if you're following just the shape of the distribution, this isn't a short, it's more of a long, and you're looking for areas of rejection at the lows to take long. But anyway, it's 11:01. I got a hard stop today. I've got lots of stuff to get done around the house and such. I hope you all have a blessed day. I hope you all were able to secure some profits today, unlike I was able to. I'm wishing you all the best. Happy Wednesday. Avoid the Fed minutes and trading in low liquidity environments in the afternoon. That's not good edge. And then I will see you all bright and early tomorrow morning at 9:28 or so. Okay. God bless you all.